started.
Porn type. Live.
Yes, I am. I'm
I'm
live.
not showing. Oops. Damn it.
Oops.
Now you're showing. There we go.
Ah. I like how this turned out.
Oops. Come on, caps lock, go off.
You're going to be yelling at everyone. Carla says, hey, Siofra and Ian, oh my God, you guys. Moira, yes, that was very exhausting for me, but definitely worked well. Ian says, hello, sorry about caps locks. Apparently he's under our name now.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, here, let me change it.
He's going to change himself over now. And
well, it's just more confusing. I don't.
so off and back in. Yes, he was trying to get his cap locks off so he wasn't yelling at everyone. Carla says, that was something. Thank you so much for that experience. It was definitely intense, and I'm glad that we did it. It was unexpected. So Ian says, back again. As himself, do it yourself coyote.
No, at least that way it doesn't become confusing because I'm not really acting as the channel, it's just a moderator.
Yep. Yeah, I sent someone else the link and apparently forgot to put the link in the email, so I just did that for her. One of the people that was there, and she was saying that she was open to anything, but she was very surprised at what happened. And it was, so yeah, we were all kind of surprised. Donna said, hi guys, clocks changed last night in England. I'm from Africa, and the idea of clocks changing seems like backwards old world stuff. Interesting. How are you
Yeah, me
guys
too.
doing?
Still
Well,
seems like backwards old world stuff to me too.
our clocks change next week, this year, after Halloween, Samhain. So it'll be next Sunday, the first Sunday of November, apparently, was when we get to readjust our lives to a new order, as it were. We're doing pretty well. I saw the eye doctor this week, and apparently I am now eligible for cataract surgery. I haven't decided when I want to do it, so I'm kind of holding off on that. But and our storm was pretty exciting on our way to the eye doctor. It happened the minute we started driving. We had a huge burst of wind, and things were falling everywhere.
Pretty much ended when we got there too.
And when we got to the road that we usually turn on, it was blocked by a fire truck and a pole that had fallen down. So we had to go all the way downtown and all the way back up to get to the other side of the street so we could go to the office. So yeah, that was interesting. And then yeah, when we were finished, it was over. It was like never happened. Apparently, it was much worse north of us. There were some tornado watches and so forth that were out there on the north coast and Washington State as well. And says my dad had cataract surgery last week. He's recovering fine. Yeah, the doctor said that it would help my sight. I'm not really having any trouble seeing at this point, though. So, you know, I'm going to hold off a little bit, I think. And apparently, the glasses that I use for my beading stuff, he says you can't get except through prescription nowadays. And I'm thinking, he doesn't know how you get close-up glasses for art and jewelry making and things like that. Apparently, he's out of the loop. But I made this, and I'm pretty proud of it. This is all my design. As I started learning about, let's see if I can get a good close-up of it. Nice piece of jade shaped like a leaf, and I made some greenery around it for the tree. So I had fun. I had fun with that. And I'm tickled. And they have more of these green leaves, different, slightly different shapes. So each one will be somewhat unique. So I'm probably going to go down and buy all of the green jade leaves that he has at the store. They're only like $1 or something. So not like a huge, you know, whatever investment into parts. But I'm glad that your father's cataract surgery went well. Several people we know have had cataract surgery, and my daughter's looking into the one horror story she heard locally to find out who did it, so that I know who not to see, just in case. Carla says that's beautiful. I love the drops leaves on it. Yeah, and those are left over from the dragon collar that I made for myself. That's the peridot colored beads. And I thought, hey, I could use those so I combine my beading with the wire wrapping, and we can see all kinds of interesting things come out of it. So it could be fun. And in response to your question that I just picked up, Carla, probably not, because it's just too much at the moment, especially after the Moita session um, earlier in the week. It's yeah, too soon, too much, not right now. But I'll be thinking of you, and I did get that audio video thing out with the calls, reading the roll call of the martyrs. So at least I got that done. It's just been weird around here. I've been running around seeing clients and doing stuff and whatnot. Carla says, I totally understand. Jonna says, I haven't seen you guys wearing glasses. I wear contacts or glasses to drive. No offense, but you're old. I'm getting there. Are your eyes just really good? Yeah, my eyes, actually, I used to not be able to see far very well. And as I aged, I got nearsighted, but my far vision got better. And so at the moment, I only need reading glasses sometimes for that. And yeah, I might be old, but I'm in pretty good shape compared to most people my age. I overheard a conversation between two guys at the store when I was waiting for my prescriptions. A 76-year-old who had his second knee surgery and was told if he didn't take care of it, he might lose his leg. And a 74-year-old who had his own health problems, and I was listening to them, and I thought, yeah, I'm not going to tell them my age. It might make them upset. And I'm like, yeah, I'm in good shape for my age. Carla says the roll call was powerful. I meditated to that. Yeah, it was a interesting doing it and recording it too, because we'd never recorded it before, so that was new. And yeah, so good. I'm glad. I think it is pretty powerful to do in person for sure. So I imagine it's pretty strong to listen to all those names being repeated by all those voices. Robert says, hello, everyone. Hi, Robert. Welcome. So, yeah, we're enjoying the change in weather, sort of. It was kind of in and out last night, so I had sort of a disruptive sleep pattern because I think the wind would come and go and so forth, and sometimes that wakes me up. But yeah, not too windy right now. It's just sort of drizzling a little bit, not much. Sort of interesting how it just shifts so quickly back and forth. So, how's everyone else's week? You all doing? And what do we want to talk about today? We know the Samhain's coming up really fast, considering it's on Friday this week. That's what, 5 days from now? Hard to believe it's that late in the year already. Carla says, eh. So your week was just eh. Just a Girl says, hello everyone. Hi, Just a Girl. Robert says, is it just me? Or I found that this week was fast ended. I think it was pretty fast for me. Carla says, Mom's back in the hospital but coming home on Tuesday. Oh, I'm glad she's coming home. I'm sorry she had to go back to the hospital. Health stuff, it can be challenging for sure.
Yeah.
And it keeps us busy, you know, because there's the physical stuff we need to take care of, reality, life, all the things that are moving around us, our moving parts and whatnot, as trying to navigate the world in its physical form and keep from getting harmed by the things that are in our way. I mean, we couldn't believe when we got to the road where it was closed because of a power pole down. People were trying to turn. There's a big fire truck with lights on and a couple of firemen standing in front of the truck, and people are thinking, can I go?
No, because they're waving no, no.
And they're waving
go.
no, no, go by, do not come here. If we'd been going the other way, we could have gone around a shorter distance, but oh wow, it was pretty impressive. Just a Girl says it was too fast, and next week I'm sure is going to be even faster, at least for me. Well, of course, you know, it does go faster as you age, so every week you're a little older, so it goes a little faster. Carla says, people. I know. I just like, I mean, how much more in your face can you get a big giant red truck with flashing lights? It's kind of hard to miss. But, you know, whatever. Whatever they decide to do. So yeah, it's interesting times. Barbara says, yeah, it's fast. Yeah, when we were like 6, a week was forever. Someone said you couldn't do something until, you know, the weekend or something. You were like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to be alive then. That is forever in the future. I don't even know if the future exists. Just a Girl says, too. Too fast. Yes. True, I hope to get wiser each week. 2, I see. Okay. Robert says, yes, it's fast. Robert says, life is forever, not always here. This is true. I like that. Life is forever, but it's just not always right here and right now. So, yeah. The changing of the seasons. We're hoping at some point in the future we will no longer be changing the clocks here. We've all voted that we don't want it to happen anymore. But apparently there is some kind of legal wrangling cooperative thingy-bobber that has to take place in order to stop it from happening again. Robert says, yeah, it's hard to define now. It only lasts a second. Donna says, Siofra, you've had many horrible men in your life, even though everyone knows Ian is awesome. Have you managed to get a healthy relationship with the Emperor card in the Tarot? Can a woman with a bad experience with men be able to bury that stuff? It's not a matter of burying that stuff. Burying is not the thing to do. It's working through that stuff and being able to come out the other side into the present and be in the moment and not project the bad experiences with other men from the past onto the person you're seeing in the present. And being able to tell the difference between your own stuff and their stuff. So that's actually part of the work we're all supposed to be doing, is figuring out what is our stuff to take care of and what's projection on our part, expectations, or, you know, whatever they might be, that aren't being fulfilled by another person in a relationship, or whether it's actually something the other person has done that is an issue for us that we need to identify and talk about. So yeah. Pokemon says, "Hi all, I'm watching and listening." Cool. Welcome. Carla says, "Same here, Siofra. Pa had a big thing about the time change, daylight savings, and overwhelming. Everyone wants it to stop overwhelmingly. That's so hard sometimes, separating the two." And when Ian and I got together and he heard about my history, he was genuinely surprised that I was willing to give him even a chance. So yeah, I guess that says something about me and my ability to heal and not blame everyone in the world for the things that happened to me and be able to separate those things
Well, you
out.
know, and the fact is, really, having all that stuff hanging on is only a crippling weight and a hindrance. If you can get rid of it and go on with your life, you'll live life so much better.
And longer too, probably.
Yes.
And I think
But it's not that easy, but
it's not. It takes a lot of work,
Yeah.
and it takes you have to be able to confront it and with what's the word, intelligence and commitment and persistence, even if you're afraid. Because generally speaking, doing that is something that generates a lot of fear. I know it did in me, because change is scary, and wanting to change, no matter how much you want to change, doing it is still scary, because you're not sure what the outcome is going to be. It's sort of like going into a blind, a tunnel in a cave or something without a light. You're not sure, is there an exit on the other side? That's sort of how I felt a lot, like I was
Uh-oh.
in a dark tunnel, and I wasn't sure if there was any light in there for a long time. And then as I started to slowly heal a little bit and start to get a handle on things, I'd start to see like a dim light, and I knew that there was a path through, but it still took a long time to get out of it. And that was around the time that the tree gave me a hug and gave me hope. So that was very, very useful to have that experience. To know that there were other forces and intelligences out there. Brianna says hello. Hi, Brianna. Ickle says, "Evening, lovely people. Happy Sunday." Hi, Ickle. Jessica Girl says, "Today I brought a question to Ian. I think the tree trunk I'm using to make my staff, it was on the side of the road, is a tree of the heaven. Elanthus altissima. Do you know its magic properties?" We'd have to look those
Well,
up.
I don't. Let me look up see if I can find it real quick here, just to see.
Yeah, because with a lot of those things, doing the research is definitely the way to get started. We don't know all the trees. What's its usual name other than its Latin name? We call it the tree of the heaven. Is it got another
Well, I typed it in here. I'll find out real quick.
common name?
Let me look for a minute and see if I can determine anything.
There it is, tree of heaven. Brianna says, "Yes, it's scary to change. I have a beautiful man friend who I love being around, who's helped healed a lot in me." And finding someone who's willing to just accept you is important. Brianna says, "I still love masculine energy, even though some males have treated me poorly in the past." You might want to type in the name and say magical properties.
Well,
Sometimes that helps. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Sort of a combination of things, healing yourself and then getting together with the right person who can help give you the space to be able to heal is also important. And the ability to change. And that's a problem a lot of us experience, is like when you get together with someone who knew you in the past, they often cannot see who you are in the present because they are so, I don't know, committed to the version of you that they knew. It's hard for them to leave room for you to be a different person and have evolved and changed and transformed and so forth. So a healthy relationship is one where both people can change and transform, and it isn't a threat to the relationship. It's something that's okay to have happen. And if you're doing it the right way, then generally speaking, you don't grow apart, you grow together. So,
Yeah, so I'm not really finding anything to tell me much about it. What I would recommend is if you want to use it, try to categorize its properties. You can start with trying to categorize it if there's aspects of the four elements and determine which one of those it might be, or things like that. If you're familiar with the Kabbalah, you can try to see if it has, if the properties and medicinal properties and things have anything to do with like the planetary aspects or something. That's all I could recommend, is to investigate it and see what its properties are. The properties of the elements are like light and sweet. So a maple tree that you get maple syrup out of would have that airiness as part of its properties. Um, that kind of thing. A really heavy wood like ironwood, the hardness of it and the weight is definitely a earthy property. Those kind of things. So yeah, other than that, it doesn't look like I would have to investigate it myself. It doesn't look like I can actually find out enough.
on the fly.
You got to kind of know what it feels like and what it seems like, and helps if you have a little intuition and make contact with the tree. So that would be the best advice I could give on that.
So Jen says, hello everyone, blessed be. Hi Jen. Just a Girl says, the only stuff I could find is that it's an invasive species and stuff related to that, so that's why I thought about asking. So Jen says, Siofra, I had a question about how one can develop their psychic abilities. Well, becoming more clear and more open is going to help you with your psychic abilities. I mean, the more stuff that you can sort of get out of your own way as far as your anticipations, expectations, and so forth, and working through your own stuff will assist a lot. And you certainly can try some exercises to like allow things to come, learning how to trust your own intuition, being able to tell the difference between your inner voice and an external voice that you hear inwardly that is like inspiration or contact with spirit or deity or something of that nature. Uh, Always being skeptical when you're exploring your psychic abilities. I think that healthy skepticism is important, because if you just assume that everything you get is correct, you're likely to go down a weird path and never question what you're getting.
Oh, absolutely. I actually have a story about that. Who's someone, I know somebody who was seeing a psychic, and the psychic just was teaching. He was supposedly teaching, and the instruction was basically you run energy this way and you do this and that. And then basically you're being psychic. The first thing that comes into your head is the true answer. Well, I pointed out to my friend who was going to visit this guy one day after he told me what had happened. This guy was supposedly psychic and had, what do you call it, precognition, or
Yeah.
clairvoyance or whatever, knew it was going to happen. So he told this woman coming in as a student she should absolutely leave her husband because he was bad for her based on what she said. So he came in and held the man at gunpoint with a head, held him down, held his gun to his head. And I told Frank, first, he's supposed to be clairvoyant. Why couldn't he see that? And secondly, as an advisor, he needs to be aware of that kind of things. It's clearly he was right, but
Yeah, clearly
you gotta watch.
he wasn't a good
You
guy.
don't want her to go home and say, my psychic says I should leave you.
And here's his number and his address. Go ask him yourself.
Sorry.
But this is true. And we can get information wrong, we can interpret incorrectly. We are all prone to that, no matter how clear we are. And so, and spirits can lie. They don't always tell the truth. Just because they're spirit being doesn't mean that they have your best interest at heart. Some of them just think it's funny to say weird stuff and see what you do with it. So, but the videos that we have up there about developing your psychic abilities, like talking about what they are, the clairvoyance, clairaudience, etc. And there's some exercises in there, like letting go of seeing things very clearly. In fact, I was wondering with my cataracts if maybe they help me see things better clairvoyantly because my eyes might not be as focused or something. I don't think so, but you never know. But yeah. Donna says, I've noticed many women dislike the Emperor card. No judgment from my side. I get it as much as I can. I wish for a world where people appreciate healthy masculine energy is a good thing. Well, see, that's the thing. There's so few healthy masculine people around. And I mean, if you talked to 10 women and asked them whether they had ever been in a situation where some inappropriate contact or verbal exchange had happened between them and a man, every single one of them would say yes, because it's that common. So being a rare specimen, that's what that means. And it's like, you're not a typical man. And certainly Ian is plenty masculine. So, you know, yeah. Brianna says, I like the king card, Jono. Just a Girl says, thank you very much. I'll try to look into that. And even if I can't find anything, at least we have a connection because I'm giving it a new life. So I'm sure that makes a perfect first step. Roz says, when you practice scrying with a labradorite sphere, do you have to energetically protect it before you scry? Or are the protections for the house and the scryer themselves enough? Well, it depends upon how you're feeling. So if you want to cast a circle around yourself to make sure that only positive energy is going to get into your space and so forth so that you don't have to think about it or worry about it, then do it. I don't know that it's necessary in all cases. Labradorite is sort of a natural stone that repels negative energy to start with. It reflects things away from it, and it can be used really well to set up boundaries anyway. I had a piece of a pyramid-shaped piece of labradorite that I would take traveling, and I would use that to set up a field, energetic field around where we were sleeping, like in a hotel or bed and breakfast or whatever. And then I would program it to make sure that only positive beings, well, no one could come in unless I invited them. It's pretty much what I decided. Easier that way. And so, you can certainly do that. You can make your own rules and regulations and stuff. So Brianna says, a fairy woke me up with a scary face, then I made a face back at it and its expression softened and I realized it was a loving presence. Ross says, because labradorite crystal should protective qualities on its own. Yes, it does definitely have protective qualities on its own. Al13 says, okay, Siofra and Ian, hi. Carla says, nodding head. Brianna says, so when I meet a man who's not a creeper, it's refreshing. Al13 says, it's common to come across men that you say hello to and they assume you want them. This includes while you're at work and it's your job to be nice to customers. It's true. I don't know where that expectation comes from, but yeah, it's unfortunate. And the fact that it seems to be a trend that, I don't know. I mean, touching someone without their permission should never be okay. It should never happen. You should never just casually go up and touch somebody unless you've checked in with them first and made sure that it's all right. No, I did not. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I guess you'd better. Robert says, same for me, Brianna. If I meet a woman that isn't narcissist, it's going to be refreshing. Yeah, and it's both sexes have got their issues, obviously, because people aren't clear. I mean, lack of clarity, internal clarity, is part of the problem. Knowing who you are, what is and isn't okay with you, what your boundaries happen to be. If you're going to establish a healthy relationship with someone else, if they can't accept your boundaries, then you're not going to be able to have a positive relationship with them. So, you have to sort of establish that, and soonest you can, the better when it comes to it. Carla says, bless you, Ian. I'll tell him when he gets back. And bless you, Ian, for sneezing. Brianna says, Robert, I have a psychology degree. Most narcissistic people statistically are men. Yes, but that doesn't mean there aren't a whole bunch of them that are women. They can be just as bad. Because that happens like in same sex relationships, women, lesbian relationships. They have just as high an incidence of domestic violence and so forth. And that definitely states something about narcissism and potential psychopathy and sociopathy and all that other stuff. So I don't know that broad strokes are helpful anymore when it comes to it. It's like individuals you encounter. If you judge the encounter that you're having with that person's energy, regardless of what body they might be in, you'll probably have a clearer read of where they're at and who they are and whether they're safe for you to be around. Because women aren't safe any more than men aren't safe. It's just that statistically, like you said, men are the ones that are most often to do something inappropriate. But doesn't mean they're not there. Just a girl says, ha ha ha, I'm not surprised. Brianna says, yes, women can be narcissistic as well, but it's not as common for females to be psychopaths. But when they are, they're just amazing. Abdullah says, I have several dreams about a shadow of lady. Usually these dreams scare me, but I also saw a woman clearly, which it was like a real vision. Then I found myself searching and learning about Lilith. Is that a call from Lilith? It could be a call from any dark goddess. Lilith could be one of them. I mean, depending on your belief systems and mythologies that you're interested in and so forth. Robert says, yes, Siofra, balanced people is important, especially these days. Just a girl says, do you think it's brain anatomy or it's a condition caused by society? Probably a combination. But I think society has a lot to do with it. It definitely shapes and expectations from the culture that you're in. So, if boys are taught it's not okay to have feelings and to show their feelings, and they're encouraged not to cry, and they're told that even if they're injured, they should run it off or walk it off and perform regardless, then you're going to end up with a bunch of young men on a sports arena that are going to die because they don't want to stop because they don't want to be seen as weak. And so you have, taught expectations about what proves that you are a man or a woman, either one, and that may dictate how you behave depending on your own ability to get outside of the boxes that have been imposed upon you by society and to be able to think as an individual. Being an individual is not easy in any culture, and they're often not favorably looked upon. In fact, most brilliant individuals throughout history have been incarcerated or murdered for one reason or another because they went against the grain of their culture and tried to point out what they saw as the fallacies of what was going on around them. So, yeah, you still have to navigate the world that you're in and figure out how to avoid the pitfalls and so forth. But, like I said earlier, seeing people as individuals is definitely very helpful. Robert says, Siofra, did you study some science like psychology or parapsychology? Well, yeah, I did, but I mean, mostly it's my own personal experience with people. I was married to a sociopath serial rapist, so that gave me a somewhat unique view and an interest in sociopathy and psychopathy. And because, especially since when he went to prison for rape when my son was 2 months old, the people I was with said it was my fault because I was pregnant at the time that he committed these violent offenses. And of course, so I looked into it and I wanted to find out, am I a reason why? And the answer is no. It wasn't me, it was him. And so, and I have a pretty high IQ and an interest in many subjects. Parapsychology I was interested in as in high school because of my own experiences seeing spirits and having encounters, the paranormal encounters that I'd already had before I got to high school. And the subject became one that people talked about. Duke University started their parapsychology department, so I delved into that. Some of it's just observational, and I think that when you become more clear, that assists you in your ability to observe people's behavior and so forth. And if you can get above the ego uh, stream, pulse, whatever that most people are in, it can help you identify when that's happening. And I try to identify that in myself to make sure that I'm not falling victim to that. One of the reasons why I didn't agree to do the Wiccan initiation was because I wanted to be certain that my motivations for doing it weren't based on strictly an ego base. Like I wanted acceptance and into a group and be able to say I am this kind of thing. And the way the initiator responded told me I didn't want to be a member of that group. So that was a very clarifying encounter. And so taking stock and doing your own work, that's part of shadow work and development and so forth. And you can understand people without being like them. That's another fallacy I see a lot on the internet. Not as much in the last little while, but they say if you understand how somebody feels, that means that you're projecting and you're like them. And that's not true, because I know I'm not a psychopath, and I know I'm not a sociopath, and I'm not a lot of things, but that doesn't mean I may not recognize them when I see them because of my personal encounters and experience with that particular type. And I've definitely taken plenty of classes, so anyway, let me get back here. Abdullah says, thanks heaps. You're welcome. Rowan says, hello everyone. Hi Rowan. Robert says, oh, you did? Sorry to hear that, Siofra. Well, yeah, it wasn't fun for me, but it was at the time it seemed to step up for my father. So that tells you something about him. Jono says, just a girl, women have a more developed corpus callosum than men. It's medical fact that the part of the brain that connects the left and right hemisphere of the brain is the reason men and women think differently. Women combine everything better than men do. This is true as far as using both halves simultaneously, but that doesn't mean men can't learn how to do that. I suggest juggling. It really helps to connect both hemispheres and get those lines of communication open. So if you think that that might be a deficit of your own brain or something like that, take up juggling. And once you get the juggling down, that'll help with the two sides. And it's one of the reasons why women have such a highly developed intuitions, because we're using more different parts of the brain when we're assessing circumstances in a situation and so forth than the average man. Sometimes more than the average person. So whatever. But yes. Jessica Girl says, I agree. I've been trying to combat my suppressed aggression, and it's been very liberating, and I think men could learn a lot if they were taught how to channel their anger. Carla says, oh my God, Siofra, that's awful. Relatives of his or? Oh, that thought I was at, no, they were the people we were living with. I was in a group marriage before it was a thing, by the way. And the people I was staying with my first husband, when he went to court and went to trial and went to prison, and I had my son, were the ones who were convinced that it was somehow my fault because I was pregnant. And they also thought maybe I should kill my son because he might carry the rape gene. And I knew that was not a good idea, and I wasn't going to do that. And so I took my son and got on a plane and went home to my mother, because I was pretty confident she wasn't going to suggest that I kill my little boy. And he's turned out to be a wonderful man. So, yeah, that was a very strange time. I got away from those people. But then again, he's the one who picked them, the ex, and he was a sociopath, and he was really good at lying. He was the best liar I've ever seen in my life. I mean, truly. He actually showed me. He said, I'm going to bring her in and apologize to her for something I did. And she's going to believe every word I say. And I'm not going to mean a word of it. And I just want you to know that. And she is going to accept my apology and forgive me. And then he brought her in, lied through his teeth about how he felt because he didn't feel anything. She thought he was genuine, accepted his apology. And then she left. And he said, see? It was a very educational experience to see someone capable of doing that. So yeah, he excelled at that. So yeah, awful. Now it says women think differently. Women combine everything. Just a Girl says, ooh, that makes so much more sense. Thank you. Carla says, guys are way better at, where am I? Compartmentalizing for sure, Jono. Gianna says, that's smart, Siofra, good self-awareness. Just a Girl says, that's why I need them, because everything is a mess in my head. Carla says, shadow work. I have a book I recently found and I'm working through it. The mention of the spiders the other night just sent me. Oh, yes, that's right. Someone asked about the spiders, and I says, are you doing shadow work? Abdullah says, could you help me? How do I know which dark goddess that might call me, please? Yeah, that's one of those tricky things. I mean, you could start off with Lilith and see if it is her. Um, or, I mean, every culture has got a dark goddess, and I've worked with a number of them. I've never worked with Lilith, but, I've definitely worked with Kali and a few others. So, yeah, I don't know exactly how to suggest you go about it. But doing the research will help and give you an idea. And just because she might be making her presence known doesn't mean that you have to work with her. That's another thing. You have free will and you can decide for yourself whether this is something you want to do or not. Robert says, to Carla, spiders? I have a lot of dreams about them. Spiders play what role in shadow work? Carla says, Shiva, I'm so glad you got out of there. Well, I think that spiders play a role in shadow work because we think of them as dark and spooky. And they often are an image of that. And we also kind of think of them as creepy, even though they do such good things. And, they help keep the mosquitoes and the flies and all that stuff under control. And sometimes the mold, depending on what kind of spider they are. It's not like they're running around trying to, eat us all the time. So, but most people have got a healthy respect or anxiety, fear when it's associated with spiders, which is probably why they show up when people start doing shadow work. I remember a whole thing with spiders when I was a kid. So, actually, once thought I was seeing spiders all over the wall when I was in the nurses' station in school, in grade school. But yeah, Carla says, Shifa, I'm so glad you got out of there. Donna says, I do juggle only 3 at once, but I'm sorted. I'm in touch with my divine femininity in a strange way. I think it makes me more of a man to love the Tinkerbell movies. I agree. And why do we have to define things as male or female? There are artificial constructs that we've created. It's like we do have definite hormonal impulses and differences and stuff depending on our bodies. And, it's like those are those. But there's no reason why we can't all be more androgynous or integrated with our male and female parts and aspects. And it's kind of funny because culturally there's this whole thing like if a woman is determined, assertive, then she's considered a bitch or aggressive. If a man is assertive, he's considered a leader. So there's a lot of this kind of cultural definitions that words take different meaning depending on how you apply them or who you're applying them to. They can be exactly the same personality trait, and people can have a completely different reaction to them because of cultural conditioning and expectations. Jen says, thank you both. Brianna says, ha ha, Jono. Pickle says, in my experience, they start following you around the house and trying to land on your shoulder every time you walk through a door. That would be the spiders. Brianna says, I saw a spider in the astral that gave me a nightmare. Then when I looked at its face, it had a cartoony smile and a top hat, and it made me laugh. I want to draw a picture of it. I had a spider nightmare when I was a kid that was so realistic. I was like laying in my bed, and a man came bursting through my bedroom door, pulled my blanket and sheet down, and threw a big, giant black spider on my bed. And I leaped out of bed in reality, and I covered up and I pounded it with my fists to kill the spider because I was convinced there was a spider in there. And then I went to the bathroom, and my mother woke up because she heard. And I told her what happened, that there was a big spider in my bed, and she said, it was just a dream. Go to bed. You're fine. And I'm like, are you sure? And I went into my room, And I looked at my covers and says, "Okay, spider, here I come, ready or not." And got in under the covers. Nothing moved and bit me, so that was good. But boy, that was a very realistic dream. One I still remember because it was so, whoa! Like, why did that person throw a spider at me? I don't understand. Just a Girl says, in my native language, everything needs to be either male or female, but in my head, even if a banana is female, it's always been male. It's just the grammatically correct way, so that's interesting. Yeah. Carla says, my two burly guys watch musicals with me. Jono, you're onto something. Everyone's different. It doesn't have to be so narrowly defined. Al13 says, I had an interesting dream about a spider not too long ago. It was a good dream. The spider itself was endearing in a way while trying to convey a message with its web weaving. Cool. Brianna says, thanks for normalizing this stuff, Siofra, because a lot of people like to sensationalize darkness instead of helping people see the bigger picture. Well, I mean, you know, it is like the big boogie, right? Woo! It's the woo-woo thing. Al13 says, it kept looking at me, making sure I was still watching. Then that day later on, I was shown an image of what a wolf spider looks like under a microscope, and it was the exact same spider. Now, wolf spiders are pretty impressive, and I don't think I want to meet one of those. They'll chase you down, from what I hear. Just a Girl says, so basically everything needs to be gendered in my head, but what makes you male or female is defined by you. Or you're both, depending on what the situation calls for. It's like, you know, knowing what the range is. If you've got the bigger range you have emotionally, and, or, you know, whatever we want to call that, the more adaptable you are to changing circumstances in front of your face so that you might be able to get yourself out of a sticky situation. And being unexpected and using humor is one of the best ways to disarm someone else. They don't know what to do with that. Fear is one of the most common responses that people who are not nice look for. So if you can avoid showing fear, it helps. As far as, you know, self-defense goes, that's a good thing. Brianna says, like the scary fairy from this morning was scary at first, but then actually love in disguise. Well, yeah, you know, I had an experience with that when I was doing a distance healing on a woman who had a brain tumor in Texas, and I was up in British Columbia, and when I went to her in the mental plane and I saw her fear of death was huge. I mean, there was this really dark force that was there that was her fear of death. And because, you know, the doctors all said that there wasn't anything they could do and that she was going to die. And I realized for her, she needed to accept death and not be afraid of it in order to heal or move through it or whatever. And when she did, death transformed into a completely different spirit. I don't know how to describe it. And then she actually ended up having her tumor shrink. The work that we did, the doctors couldn't figure out how or why it was shrinking. It just started shrinking. So that was kind of nice to hear. I was very happy about that. It doesn't always work, but the experience of her fear of death was interesting, and seeing the spirit and how it transformed depending on her. It's like it's still the same spirit, it's still the same energy, but her view of it transformed it. So yeah, it's interesting. Al says, it kept looking at me, making sure I was still watching. I saw that one already. Okay. Carla says, dreams are cool this time of year, right? A hawk photobombed me as I was trying to take a picture of a lake ocean. I think I saw sand. Al says, Asa Bikeshin is the message it weaved, is little net maker or little spider in Ojibwe. Oh, how cool is that? I'm not worried it will chase me down. This is good. Someone's got to have spider as their totem animal, right? I mean, really, when it comes to spiders and what they do, their ability to create something out of just what they carry, right? They spin silk from their body, so they manufacture and then build their own house on the fly. And so they're very adaptable, and they can even fly on the wind. I mean, their ability to ride the air currents, or seems like there would be some good aspects to Spider. And then hiding in the dark. And then curling up in a ball when people try to kill you. And then springing back out and running when the broom comes up. Amazing how well they can survive stuff. They're pretty cool. Brianna says, that's wonderful, Siofra. I did distance healing for someone for the first time with your healing chant with their permission, and they are actually doing better. Awesome. Alice says, the ogre spider is really cool. The way it hunts is unique. Just a Girl says, I'm so looking forward to living in a generation where magic and science are connected officially. That story is so beautiful. Brianna says, the whole experience seems to have expanded the love in my own heart. I mean, I had a dream about Ian last week where a snake peed in his mouth. He had a dream. In my dream, he told me he had a dream about a snake peeing in his mouth, and he was very upset about it. And I said in the dream, that's a good symbol, because snakes are, kundalini and knowledge and all this other stuff. So I'm thinking it was a good dream, not a bad dream, although it was kind of gross. So dreams are funny. And when I have a dream someone else is supposed to be dreaming, it's always interesting. Carlos says quantum physics. Brianna says laugh out loud. Snake pee. Yep. Yep. And I had some things that were sticking out of me that were they seemed like they were metal, but they weren't hurting. So I just started picking them out. They would come out, these strands about like yay long or so. And then I collected a big pile of them. I just pulled them all out of my skin. So I figured, I don't know what for sure that meant, but I thought it was pretty interesting anyway. Maybe minor attachments kind of thing. Getting rid of them, clearing myself. Why not? It's always good to clear yourself out. I had a crazy plane ride though. It took off on a highway that I know. I don't know what that was about either. So some nights I have a lot of dreams. But hey. I think okay, so this was sort of cool. There was a story about a young woman diver who got rescued by a beluga whale. And I had to check to make sure it was a true story before I shared it, because there's so many fake stories out there, and I confirmed it was indeed a true story. So that was neat that a beluga actually rescued this woman. The water was so cold it paralyzed her muscles and she couldn't move, and she was way down in the water because it was a deep dive contest. And this beluga came up under her, whose name was Millie, by the way, and very gently grabbed her leg and pushed her up to the surface and saved her. So I was telling my daughter about that when she was over here, and she was reminding me about the woman who got saved from a tiger shark by a humpback whale. And I'd heard that story. It was a number of years ago, and she very moved by that story and how humpback whales are known for their altruistic tendencies. They will put themselves in danger to save another mammal species, without necessarily thinking about their own survival and so forth. And then I think my phone was listening in on this conversation, because when I went to YouTube, that video from the woman who had the encounter with the humpback whale was there. And so I watched it. It was very moving to see her encounter, and they had photos, moving pictures, because they were making a documentary at the time. And it was just so amazing, the impact that encounter had on her. So if you get a chance to find it and look at it, I recommend it. And she got to revisit the whale a little over a year later. The whale came back to her area, and she went out and had another encounter with it after it saved her from the largest tiger shark she'd ever seen. And she works with them, she's an oceanographer kind of person. And they were doing like some kind of a documentary on whales at the time. She had a film crew and everything, so that was pretty cool. But the encounters that we can have with other species and so forth can be very, very profound and meaningful, and change our lives just in ways we can't even anticipate. So that was pretty cool. Even though I think my phone was listening in on me. Carla says, I hope I forget that dream. Ew. Yep. But you know, you never know where you're going to find inspiration. Sometimes it comes in the strangest places, strangest forms. So, ah, it's it's been interesting. But yes, I am not a trained psychologist, so everything I say is anecdotal or experience based. These are my experiences. I do believe that ritual is one of the missing components to healing from trauma, and that because ritual will reach your subconscious in a way that nothing else can exactly, since the subconscious deals with imagery like dream imagery and so forth. Ritual is like a waking dream that you can create environment in order to help yourself deal with whatever happens to be coming up for you, and a way to heal. I did a lot of those kind of rituals this time of year, especially when I was in Santa Cruz trying to heal the child within and protect the child that went through all the trauma when I was little. And I think my attitude towards my experiences has been, if I can learn something from it, no matter what it is, if I learn something from it, then it won't have been a complete waste of time. And so that's what I try to do, is learn something from all of my experiences. Either a way to keep myself from getting into one again, you know, or to help someone else identify it or whatever, but it turns it more into a positive focus, I guess, moving forward kind of thing. Carla says they connect us across realms, the here and now and there. Pam says, Pam, hi Siofra, I'm a long time subscriber but have never chatted with you before. I have had a couple of things happen and was hoping to be able to send you an email. Oh, absolutely. Siofrasmagicalcove at gmail.com. I'll look for your email. It might take me a few days to respond depending on what's going on in, you know, the world around me, or if I have to think about it. A lot of times when I get emails, I consider what I'm going to say for a while before I respond. I often send a quick email back and say, I got your email. And I really like it if I spend time sending somebody a response that they, even if they think I'm crazy or stupid or they don't like what I have to say, if they send me back an acknowledgement saying, I got your response, at least I know it went somewhere and it didn't get lost in the internet ether or what have you. But yes, please send me an email. I may or may not be able to help. Just a Girl says, my fairy friend wants me to say hi to you, and she wants me to tell you something else. I'm just not getting the message, really. My connection is still not the best. I'm sorry. That's okay. When it comes, you can let me know. Brianna says, that's good advice. Carla says, my guinea pig died 4 years ago this time of year. I did a tribe ritual with her before she passed, and when she did, I honored her. She came to us in the clouds that night. I have the picture. Well, I've had a lot of connections with animals, and so has my husband over the years. He had never had a pet before he and I got together. He wasn't allowed to have them when he was a kid.
My mother had issues. What can I say?
Well, yeah, she was narcissistic, psychiatrically unstable, psychotic, schizophrenic, maybe. Who knows? Might have thought cats were from the devil, considering her religious bent. She hated cats. But yes, so that's been nice. And Bunny has been absolutely fabulous the last while. Last night when I went to feed him, he just did binkies all the way around me. He was just shaking his head. He was jumping and shaking his head. It was so cute. I was like, yay, he's so happy. He's just having a blast. He is a little cutie pie, so he's feeling a lot better. And you know, it's like, it's hard to explain. Like being able to make an animal into your heart is a good thing, in my opinion. Not a waste of time. I think it helps to generate empathy, the right kind. Carla says he is adorable. Yes, he is adorable. He has cute rays. His hair is just like all over. I found a video of some other bunnies a few days ago that were also lion heads, and and yes, they all have this sort of cockeyed kind of hairstyle that goes all over the place, and it's just adorable. Very asymmetrical, very bouncy. So yay. So thank you for being a subscriber, Pam. We appreciate you. And anytime you want to jump in and ask questions that other people will see and hear the answers to, you can feel free. And that's fine too, obviously. If you want to take it as a personal thing, that's not a problem. But more general kind of stuff, you can feel free to jump in and ask whatever's crossing your mind. Life is good. Brianna says bunny poop a lot, like little Pez dispensers. Yes, they do.
Very true, yeah.
He's doing such a good job in that department. We're having to change it out every 2 days now.
But we're happy.
But we're happy to change
Yes,
it.
he's healthy and we're happy.
Yes. We're going to have to catch him again to cut his toenails or take him to someone to cut them for us soon. I can see his little toenails sticking out.
Yeah.
And he won't like that either way. So we'll figure that out. But yeah, it goes in one end and just comes out the other in little pellets. And it says, I heard you can litter train them. Yes, he is. He pretty much, he still has, like, the pee, he'll pretty much go in one spot. The poops sometimes come out on their own when he's running around. So, but at least they're not, like, disgusting and horrible, and you can sweep them up pretty well. But most of those go in his box. So mostly all of it ends up in one place, which is way better than the other part. Rowan said, is there a type of fae that wears black, including a mask? Black dress, dark hair? I don't know. They can appear any way they want. So I don't know if that is a type, as it were. Is it tall? Is it short? And, it's like there's so many different kinds. Where do you live? Brianna says they're such sweet little animals. Just a Girl says, I bought a rainbow crystal and I've been loving its energy with my tourmaline. Can't find anything about rainbow crystals, but it's probably because it's man-made. Ah, Carla says, question answered. Some bunnies can be like cats, yes. It helps if they're fixed too. Unfixed bunnies do not make as good pets, and they're not as trainable, especially the little male bunnies as far as the training part goes, because they like to mark their territory because they're male, and the female is much more aggressive because of her mothering instinct and so forth. And so, yeah. So if you're going to have a bunny as a pet, it's good to get them fixed because they breed like rabbits. And then you end up with more bunnies. Unless that's what you're trying for. Pam says, thank you. I will respond when you send me anything. All right. Beth says, hi, everyone. Hi, Beth. Jen says, Siofra, is it possible to post the video of your channeling session for those of us who missed it, as long as nobody's privacy would be compromised? I'll have to ask everyone who was involved and see what they think. So I'll have to get back to you on that. We can ask Carla right now how she feels about it, since she was the first one. Or maybe we can excerpt different parts, and the people that agree to let it happen, that it's okay. We can excerpt them with Ian can do that on his program with the computer or whatever, to take out the parts that if people don't want to. So I'll check. Rowan says, it was left as a mural on my curtain. Seriously, young woman as described, old woman with a large nose and a black cloak, small winged fairy with a crown in the center of the mural. I'm in Ohio. Okay. So is this a physical mural? I mean, like it's on your curtain, or is it something that that appeared? Sort of sounds like almost a Halloween kind of thing. Imagery. Carla says, I'm fine. I don't care. That was amazing. Snotty mess and all. Okay, so we can do at least part. We can do her part. Jessica Girl says, will you be making another session? I missed it. It must have been exhausting, or so maybe not that soon. Yes, it was definitely exhausting, and it was almost too many people. It went on for 2 hours, and for me to maintain that level of connection for a full 2 hours was definitely exhausting. So I was pretty wiped out for a couple of days afterwards. So I might make it fewer people next time. So send me an email if you would let me know that you're interested in a Moita session and give me an idea of when you're available. So if we're going to plan another one, we can make sure that you can attend. Rowan says it appeared on my curtain. That's pretty cool that it appeared on your curtain. I don't know what to make of it, but it sounds neat. It does sound very like hag, Halloween, and fairyland kind of thing. Um, so I don't know. Carla
Somebody
says,
gives a lot of hearts there.
and I have to say that was a non-energy if I ever did see it. Rowan says it wasn't made by a person. I'm looking for the picture on an old phone. Strangest thing I've ever seen. Beth says, Siofra, you need to recharge. Yes, I have to take care of myself. Thank you. Just a girl says, oh wow, 2 hours? Only someone with an amazing talent like you could do it. It was definitely, yeah, it was right at the edge of what I could possibly maintain, considering. So I might count the number of people that we had that time and then lower that and make it fewer. So it's not quite as intense, although it might not change anything. It could still be just as intense, just different. I don't know. But yeah, channeling is an interesting experience. In the beginning of the video, it's pretty funny because I stopped being able to talk well when it started, but just before I let her in. Like, my body doesn't work the same way as we're doing the energy shifting back and forth, and I'm getting prepared to house and maintain the link and so forth with her. And we started doing it 2 days before the session, in because it'd been a while since I'd done one. We started doing them when I started doing the drawing down the moon ritual. We started off. I wanted to get back into the swing of that kind of energetic exchange with a other being, and so we did that with the group for a while before I felt confident enough to be able to pull in the goddess on a full moon and do that ritual. Um, so yeah, so it's been a while since I've done one. It was definitely interesting, and it's different than most people expect, I think. Carly can tell you that wasn't what she thought was going to happen, and everybody who was there. Apparently, I thought I sent a link to somebody, and apparently I just sent, "Hey, here's the link," and that's all I sent. I just heard from her this morning, picked it up this morning, and I sent her the link to the video so she could watch it. But yeah, so and we'll talk to the participants and see. So Just a Girl says, and you're still talking with us? You do too much. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. Um, yeah, not only that, but doing all sorts of other stuff too, and then taking care of the reality that we happen to be living in, like doing dishes. We had every dish in the house dirty the other day. Zephyrin17 says, hi, Siofra and Ian. I don't usually catch you live as I'm in the UK, but managed it tonight, 10 p.m. here. Just wanted to ask about milky white quartz crystal and what its spiritual properties are. Thanks.
Hello.
Hi, Zephyrin. Apparently you and another person from the UK is here tonight because you guys had a time change before we did. So yay. Because I think next week it'll be 11 because we're going to be doing the time change too. Milky white quartz is just good for collecting energy just about any kind you want, and you could use it as a scrying tool as well. Quartz is just easy to charge up with just about whatever you might need. Do you have any other ideas, Ian, on the magical properties of quartz and what you'd use it for?
Well, just in general, just the wateriness and magnetism. So it can be used. I mean, a lot of people like them because they're pointed as a projecting thing, but quartz is naturally magnetic, so they can be very well charged up to draw things to you, that kind of thing.
And it's a milky white quartz. Don't know what the shape is. It doesn't say.
Those milky white is probably, they usually don't make those aren't usually the points, so it's probably just around.
Yeah, milky white.
Yeah.
Not smoky.
Yeah.
But that means it's like similar to the rock that the gnomes threw up onto the onto our lawn.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah, that's a quartz.
Yeah.
And I use that for earth in my bath, but I mean, there's a lot of things.
Well, well, yeah, it depends how you look at it. I mean, any stone is earthy in that sense.
Yeah. So Carla says it was literally palpable. I felt heat and the overwhelming emotion, all good, but so intense. That was something words do not suffice. Yeah, it was very intense. Jen says, thank you. You're welcome, Jen. Carla says, my hands were sweaty before we even started. Just a Girl says, I'm so happy for you, Carla. You should also rest. Zephyrin says, yes, they're round shaped. Yeah, so I think that it might make a good scrying tool that you could use for that too. It doesn't have to be perfectly round in order to use it for a scrying tool. You can use it to try and clear your vision, maybe clairvoyantly, putting it on your forehead, see what it does. You can try it out on your different chakras and see if it has a specific effect for them. I use selenite and kyanite on my third eye chakra for helping it to clear and open and stuff to help me see better. I have a crystal ball. I have a black mirror. And I'm going to start trying to use the globe that I collected all the comet energy in as a scrying tool, because apparently I found my notes about it from years ago when I first started it. And I said, I don't know what this is going to be for, but I'm thinking maybe it should be a scrying tool. And I thought, oh yeah, that's what I should use it for. So I'm going to try that out, see what it does. Carla says, just a girl, I was telling Siofra I must have drank a gallon of water that night. Had a good headache too. Yeah, all that energy, that was definitely intense. So we'll see who we can contact and who agrees and doesn't agree. And Just a Girl says, do you recommend any crystal for the uterus, Siofra? Bloodstone comes to mind. Just because. Goddess stone, and it represents the female pretty well. I know Christians, sort of absconded with it, and for them it represents the crucifixion, the blood of Jesus and whatnot. But originally it represented the goddess, and the red in the stone represents the goddess's menses. So it's about creation, birth, female organ. I also recommend cedar trees. According to native lore, a woman sitting under a cedar tree with her back against a cedar tree is helpful for all kinds of female issues, so it's good for that part of your body. So it's good for the uterus and any issues there, depending on what's going on. That says garnet. Yeah, garnet would probably be a good one too. Zephyrin says, thank you so much. You're welcome.
Boy, my body today. Sneezing, eyes watering, and now I'm just like falling asleep.
That antihistamine did it. Bodies.
Didn't do it well enough because my nose is still running.
Yeah. Gotta watch out for that nose. Well, it was really funny when Carla started nodding. And I did too. Moira was complaining about my body leaking. She doesn't have to deal with that stuff on a regular basis. I thought that was hysterical. This is leaking now. Brianna says, when the heart chakra is open and you feel union with everything, how can one still have boundaries and protect oneself? Because if something tries to harm what you feel and what's open in you, then you can put up a boundary. I mean, being open doesn't mean boundaryless. It means being connected to the things that are safe. They're connected to life, the life force, life energy, spirit, and it should all be safe.
It doesn't mean you let everything in also on a personal basis, because there's two levels to things we're talking about. There's a spiritual basis, and I'm going to call it a separate personal basis. So on one level, you're in harmony with everything, but on the other level, you still realize that you may be in harmony and in union with a person's real self, but that person can still be an evil murderer and try and kill you with a knife. So you have to have the two levels. You can still, when you're at that level, you can still make use of all the personal things you had before and protect yourself. You don't really, the only thing you're giving up when you reach that awakening and stuff is your illusionary self and your illusions. So while you can still be that way, you might be going, okay, I love the unique human individual you are, but I have to kill you to keep you from killing my kids. I mean, you can, when it comes to things like that, you can choose, I guess is what I'm saying. You can choose, and if you're happy and harmonious, you're not going to want to choose anything bad. So you might find another way to do it, but at any rate, you can still deal with stuff. Even when you're open, you don't really lose your capability to be separate. You just don't have to be limited by it.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. It's like when I have that kind of a question for myself, it's like I've been in those situations where everybody wanted to touch everybody and hug everybody and love everybody and everything else, and I'm like, when we're in the spirit world and everything else like that, maybe that's fine. I can love you universally, but when we're here, this is my body, this is myself, and you can't touch it without permission.
You might love the person that you have to deal with, but you're still rational and realize that you have to deal with things and bad people and stuff.
And
so
it's not safe for you. It's not safe.
Yeah,
for you.
it doesn't remove that. What I've heard though is in a lot of cases, a real heart chakra awakening makes people tend to take a messianic attitude, like they're the new Jesus and they're going to bring everybody resurrection and stuff.
Oh yeah, you got to watch out for that.
That's one of the side effects potentially of opening the heart chakra, is that people can get very absorbed into that, too much absorbed into the heart chakra and thinking they're going to bring love to everybody and nothing's going to be a problem anymore, and
Yes,
and so esoteric organizations usually, before they initiate somebody into that degree that awakens that heart chakra, usually they do a real ego popping on them just before they put them through that, so that they don't get all sucked up into themselves. So.
Right, which is a good thing. Sometimes ego popping is a requirement.
Yeah.
For further development and so forth.
Yeah.
Carla says, leaking all the places, weren't we? Jessica Girl says, thank you. I have a chronic illness and crystals have been actually helping me. Also the medicine, obviously. Carla says, I had to run to the bathroom to stop everything up. That was hilarious. Brianna says, I find isolation helps me to feel safe, but I'm learning to regulate in the presence of other people, and it's hard not to shut down or feel anxious. I feel either too guarded or too open. One of the reasons why I use stones a lot, like today I've got 4 bracelets on each arm, and each one helps to regulate a certain kind of energy that's coming at me, or to reject energy coming at me because I'm not interested in interacting with it, that kind of thing. So it can definitely help quite a bit. And Carlos says, leaking all over the place. I obviously can't type with thunderous laughter on my end. Just a girl says, oh. Brianna says, like learning to drive a stick shift. It just feels scary to have an open heart. I like Like I feel like I need extra protection and very strong boundaries.
Yes, and especially at the first, it's very good to, you can reach a heart level where you don't need to protect it anymore, but you got to get there first. That's the main thing about, the newer somebody is at magic and stuff, the more they really need the protection and the more they'll feel they need it. But as you start evolving, you'll start needing it less and less, and pretty soon, with the heart chakra opening, it can eventually start absorbing and overriding some of the issues and things. So, but yes, you absolutely need to protect yourself as long as you need to.
And Carla says, oh, I'm sorry, just a girl. Same. Energy work, crystals, and good doctor's help. Brianna says, I don't feel like Jesus. I feel like hiding and getting stronger boundaries. I just feel more like myself, like back to who I was as a child.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
and
generally a good
that
thing.
is a stage of development that I think when you start to open up, we all go through. I remember being in that kind of a sort of fragile state where I could handle a certain amount of people. As you get better at shielding and blocking out energies that are not conducive to you being able to stay in your energy field and feeling like yourself, then it'll get easier to be around other people. But also, you'll be very discerning about who you let near you for longer extended periods of time. Because what's the point of having somebody come close to you that's going to be disruptive or demanding or make you feel off balance and off center and so forth? You don't owe them anything. You don't owe them yourself or your time or your energy or your trust or your attention or any of that stuff. It's entirely up to you who you choose to share that with. And that's one of the reasons I use the bracelets when I go shopping. Because there are so many people out there, and they are in so many different stages of development and states of mind. Some of them are raging bulls in a china shop, and some of them are fragile flowers waiting to be broken. I mean, there's just so much potential emotional, energetic stuff happening. And every so often, I'm a little more sensitive than I want to be. Like one day at the mall, we walked by an ATM machine, and I saw an image of a man pounding the machine and yelling at it because the money he thought was in his bank account wasn't there. He was going to kill the machine, So, and another time I was in a store and I kept seeing people stealing stuff off the shelves. They weren't there either. But everywhere I looked, it's like I saw somebody yeah. And it's like, this isn't helpful, people. I don't need to know this. It's not like I can stop them. They've already done it. So, go away and leave me alone. So, we all have our days, even me, where we're a little bit more sensitive. And like what happened in that antique shop when I looked at the Nazi memorabilia stuff that was there and had a really bad reaction to that. So it never completely goes away. There's always that potential there for something to happen, but then you have better sets of skills to deal with it afterwards. Like when that happened, I ran to the park and threw myself on the ground and let the energy go and just drained it out of me.
Well, also though, your energy, your aura will gradually get stronger as you continue to work, and then the things will gradually be less and less harmful. So
Yeah.
that's why I think people need protection more, you know, until they get themselves built up pretty well.
Brianna says, okay, that's very solid advice. Thanks. And yes, exactly. Just a Girl says, thank you. It's hard to be 20 and be in so much pain, but the fairies helped me and I love them. They pet me and caress me. They really want to help. They really do. They care about people. They can't always do anything specific about it, but sometimes they can. You never know. Beth says, poo shopping. They run to me and tell me their life story. Oh, God, yes, I know I have that happen to me, too. We are, as empaths, we are walking directories, apparently, of a life story. I don't know how many life stories I've heard walking through a store and someone has walked up to me and says, blah, 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 blah. And I've gotten about 50 years worth of information in 5 minutes. And I'm like, wow, that's intense. I'm so sorry that that happened to you. Okay. I'm like, all right, I think I need to go home now. Brianna says, yeah, fairies are sweet. Yes, they are. That says totally. Yes, it's just so bizarre. And my entire family is like that. All of us. Well, the women anyway. my daughter and my granddaughters had exactly the same experience. Or people, they just sort of, they see us and they go like, this person will listen to whatever I have to say. And I'm going to talk to them and tell them my life story. They will appreciate it. Brianna says, yep, I've done that. And I've also had people overshare too, like drunks at a bar. Just a girl says, that happens so much to me on the bus. Know so many random life stories. Beth says, back to my sacred lair. Or lair. Not sure which she meant. Whichever, it's probably a good place to be. But yes, it is interesting. And I genuinely find people interesting. You know, what happens to them, how they think and how they feel and so forth, which probably comes off. And the fact that I don't say what I necessarily think when people are telling me a story makes them think I believe everything they say, so then they tell me more. There are times when I'm sitting there in my brain going like, what the hell is going on here? Okay. Stay calm, slowly back away, extricate yourself. This person is insane. You need to get out of here. Like, oh boy. Nico says, this explains why I have never traveled on public transport, including planes, without hearing someone else's entire life story. Yes. Carla says, yep. Brianna says, I just don't smile at people as much anymore, especially with an active kundalini like moths to a flame. This is true. Carla says, poker face. Ha ha ha. Yeah. But it is interesting sometimes, like every so often I'll run into someone else who's also like clear, alert, awake. I don't know what to call it. And they'll see me, I'll see them. We'll do kind of a acknowledgement nod and keep on going and not stop and interrupt the other. That says that's why Dave goes to the store. Yeah, sometimes I go to the store and go and get the pickup put in my car so I don't have to go in the store. So Carlos says it's the eyes. Yeah, the eyes, the energy, the whole shamil. I think people respond to it and don't even know that they are or why. It's sort of on an instinctive level. And it is like moths to a flame. It's a good description of it. Ron says, hello, I made it. Did I miss much? Yes, the entire show. We're going to be gone in 3 minutes, so I'm so sorry, Ron. That says, that's lovely when that happens. So if you have a question, you better get it in now, or you'll have to just watch the show afterwards so you can find out all the fun stuff we talked about. And Brianna says, I just want to be a balanced person, but it's impossible to skip the messiness of growing. Yes.
Yeah, that's very true.
And that's a good way of putting it. Growing is messy. Just a girl says, I gave up on using headphones. Tell me everything, ladies. Ha ha ha. Sometimes, you know, a kind act, a kind look, a kind gesture, and just listening can actually help someone in ways we can't even comprehend. There's no way for us to know how much impact we might have by a small gesture of kindness in someone else's life, because they go on their way and they are the center of their universe, and we continue to be the center of ours, and our orbits may never meet again and find out. So I think kindness is a superpower, and there's nothing wrong with it. I don't think it's a weakness in any way whatsoever. I get some hearts for that. It's like, you know, if you can do it.
Well, it's true.
I mean, you know, unless it's a child in a weird situation, I probably wouldn't jump in front of a train. But, you know, in certain circumstances, I might. It just all depends. But but the small kindnesses are like no skin off your teeth. It's weird saying, do they ever have skin on your teeth? I don't think anyone has skin on their teeth, do they? There are weird things we say. We don't understand where they come from. All right. Anyway, I guess it's time for us to go. And I will contact the other people and see how they feel about the idea of anyone else seeing their interaction with Moira, and let you guys know what we're going to do with that. And everyone have a safe and wonderful Samhain coming up on Friday. And we do have the roll call of the martyrs up on the channel that you can use if you want to honor all those people that were horrifically tortured and murdered for no good reason, that makes any sense whatsoever. So Jen says, I totally agree, Shifra. And Beth says, blessed be to all. And Brianna says, blessed be. Jen says, blessed be everyone. Ian says, blessed be. Thank you, everyone, for chatting with us today. Yes, we had a lovely time. Great show, as usual. Good conversations. Jessica Girl says, bye, everyone. Much love. And she's going to shout it because she means it all. And Carla says, much love to everyone. Have a wonderful Samhain. Blessed be. And Zephyrin says, blessed Samhain to all. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. Appreciate all the care.
Goodbye, Al.
We'll see you guys next week at least, if not sooner.